reach beyond and you need to step inside their range to attack. That way you can practice successfully getting the idea of switching from body to head. So what you want to do is follow up and then switch step in quickly to do some body punching to head punching. One of the great feelings of heavy bag is the ability to let the weight go and to use the bag as it comes back to you. Keep your eyes firmly focused on the bag at all times. And remember, it's for strength, so you can let multiple punches go just to strengthen up your back and for a physical conditioning workout. Remember to work again on that stiff movement, that stiff jab, just to keep somebody off of you. And working once again strongly into the body. Here we get a closer impression of what it's actually like as Martin builds up the speed and shows you some combinations put together. Using the weight of the bag as it returns back into you, as you can see, using the elbows to stop the punch, stop the bag. Eyes firmly focused on the target. Switching from high to low. Using the hips for those body punches, using the hips to switch from low to high, and using the hips here to strengthen and assist the back in throwing those multiple punches. So just getting a workout more than anything else, strengthening yourself up, preparing yourself for strong, hard situations, so being harder on yourself than somebody else can be to you. Here you see Pin Ban Dao just working a simple exercise for hand and foot coordination.
She'll probably answer you with a good kick straight into the groin. Now, that's definitely going to be the case, so why shouldn't we employ the same kind of tactics? So with that, we are going to go and have a look at a series of groin kicks now. Now you can already see that he's standing quite falsely at the moment, so we'll have to change the angle of the kick. We're going to come on to that in a few minutes. For now, we're just going to look at the very basis of the lift kick, to lift up and back down. Now if any woman will tell you that a kick in the groin is the best way to disable a man, I'm sure any man will agree that sometimes a flick is much worse than a good belt at times. So if you ask yourself the question, what's more important in a lift kick? Is it speed or power? I think most men would agree that it's going to be speed and accuracy, because even a flick can have the same results. If I ran from halfway across the room and kicked Salim in the groin, we all know that he'd probably drop down, but the chances of me landing that kick are going to be quite minimal. So speed and accuracy are going to be massively important to you. The other important thing to remember about the lift kick is it doesn't hinge at the knee. Keep the knee strong, lift and pull back down using the hip. If I make an extra movement to lift the knee, most people are quite good at moving their groin quickly and you're just not going to be able to get the target. So, kick the pad, flick it, pull back down. Flick and pull back down. If Salim moves the pads away suddenly, then the kick should stay at the same height. It shouldn't go belting all the way up. So you're going for accuracy. On and off. On and off. On. Like we already agreed, most people don't stand with their groin exposed. And even if they do, they're quite good at protecting and moving it. So if Salim's got a leg forward, a straight lift kick is going to catch on his inner thigh and not get him anymore. So you've got to be able to change the angle of the kick. Now your knee's just a hinge joint. All that does is go forward and back. So any change in direction has to come from further up in your hip. So as you kick now, let your hips open up and curl across slightly. You'll come around his leg, and if Salim was trying to dance around the edge of my guard, he opens up into that kick. So Salim, if you throw a hook around my guard hand, he will open up into this kind of kick in the groin. Does that make sense? So, to simulate this, Salim will put a leg forward and place the pad on the inside of his thigh. Instead of going straight up now, you're going to curl, open the hip, and kick with the laces of your shoe. So exactly where the laces would be, the top part of your shoe, is where you're going to kick with. The same thing applies as before, speed and accuracy rather than power, and don't start hinging with the knee, you'll give the whole game away. So, so, the front lift kick lifts, and this one slightly across to the side. The other kick at is simply taking it the other way across. If Salim had his other leg forwards. Now if we turn around, okay, we'll keep this leg forwards. If you put the pad back down, it's on the inside of your leg. If I had the other leg forwards, the angle would change to coming across this way now. Coming across in this direction. Turn and form your bomb with your lead guard. That'll give you the angle and the lift, and again, hitting with the laces. So if you look now, we've got three. One going slightly out, one straight forward, and one turning across with the angle of your bomb. 1, 2, 3 with the angle of your bomb. All coming from the directions in the hip. So these kicks will lead into each other. As you kick the first one, you'll feel the natural inclination to unwind with the hips. So it's quite a natural movement as you come across. To open one with the hips and then turn and close it off.
So far, most of the time we've been referring to this as a war bag, which doesn't specifically mean that it's actually a punch bag. In Wing Chun we can actually kick towards the bag too, and what we'll show you is just some basic ideas. As with all training, moving targets are the best way to train, to work with your partner, work in combinations, work on ideas. But one of the most important assets of kicking, as anybody in any style will tell you, is balance. The supporting leg has superior importance in Wing Chun over the actual thrusting leg. In some styles they'll lift up the leg and come high, they'll come up onto the toes of the base foot. In Wing Chun we plant the base foot, we make sure that's particularly strong on the floor, and then we kick, in practice terms, without placing the foot to the floor. So what you'll see when we kick is that sometimes we have the foot dead straight forward. Other times we turn the foot so the toes will be turned inward towards the centre line of the body, and other times the toes are turned outward. The reason for turning the toes out so far is it enables the knee to turn out and enables us to kick from considerably closer range. So I can touch the bag without stretching, and then from here I can plant the foot. By turning the foot, the knee will go out, enabling me to strike clearly at close range using the foot. More effectively low, but for training purposes, put yourself under a small amount of pressure and see how you get on. Try to kick without pushing yourself back, so there'll be an inclination to kick into the bag and try and push, and then you grip with your buttocks, you grip with your feet, try and grip through your footwear and hold the ground so the bag doesn't push you back. Similarly, we do the same with a punch. We hold the ground, we punch into the bag, and we try to prevent the bag from pushing us backwards, or we prevent ourselves from being pushed backwards. Okay, you'll see that certain shapes have the bong, and then when we use the bong, we use a tong kick. Other times we turn the foot out and we use the park because that facilitates the extension of the heel, or at other times we kick dead straight, sinking the body weight and kicking very short. You can also use the ball of the foot to kick someone straight into the patellar ligament. A very, very effective strike indeed. And we also turn the foot out and downwards to strike into a leg, trying to get as much contact as we can so we don't slip off these small round targets. Also what you'll see is that we sometimes use tarn as well, so we might move out and use tarn, or even fake it across, changing legs. So when you're kicking onto the bag, you may well facilitate this move, flicking across, driving in, flicking across at 45 degrees, and other times you'll be using the bong and folding, unwinding, using the hips that little bit more to push and drive your supporting leg. And other times we simply reverse hand, kick dead straight. Purpose is the knee and the hand basically don't get in the way of each other. So we just kick straight, reverse leg, reverse hand, basically kicking into the pubic symphysis, straight into the pubic bone.
So if you've been training on the wall bag for some time, the chances are that you're causing minor damage to the capillary system in the hands, therefore causing some stagnation and bruising in this area. It is also possible that energetically you're affecting the hands because there are a lot of meridians that run through to the thumb and the fingers too. So with that in mind, it's very important that you understand that basic treatment to remedy this situation is very, very important to you. When you're training, you can obviously feel the urge to rub and massage your own hands because you can feel the bruising and discomfort. But nothing can replace the fact that someone else treating your hand is far more effective. They can do a much more active treatment, they can manipulate the bones in a way you simply can't do because you're only using the one hand, and they can rotate your wrist for you in a way you really can't get hold of and manipulate in the same way, and they can traction your joints with much more comfort. Another thing they can do is they can work the joint and massage the hand while tractioning the hand at the same time. These are things you simply can't do easily for yourself. And we'd recommend wholeheartedly that if you've got a good training partner and you've got a good training relationship, that when you finish a training session, if you're working in the gym, one of you's on one bag and one's on the other, that you actually switch around and you massage the person's hand after treatment and they do the same for you. When you haven't got a training partner, then you're just going to have to stick to your normal massage and applying the treatments onto your hands. So what we're going to go through now is a basic massage treatment using some of the acupuncture points, and we're also going to go through some treatment through Dit Da Jiao. So first of all, before you start treating somebody's hand, the first thing to do is to realise that you need to get a good grip. Taking your own small finger, place it into the thumb and hook your fingers underneath. Place your other small finger into their small finger, hook your hands underneath, and now you've stretched the hand open and you can use your thumbs firmly down the hand. So massaging down the hand and small circular movements, opening up the hand. So work your way, first of all down the outside of the thumb and the small finger, and then gradually drawing lines, pinching and circling all the way down. So gradually working down towards the centre, and then on the centre itself, just put the two hands together. So once again, small finger goes in and under. Small finger goes in and under. So you're already stretching the hand. Now from this position here, we're going to manipulate the bones. So we're holding the hand fairly firm and we're manipulating the bones. As you can see, I'm taking the hand and manipulating the bones. I'm just moving the bones of the hand and helping them be free. So after so much impact training, bruising and the damage, and this word stagnation once again, we're encouraging blood flow into the hands. So in the centre of the hand, we've got a heart constrictor point, a good pressure point for stress. You can hold and press this point. So pressing and massaging the hands. Turn hand over, and then from this position here you do the same idea. You take small finger in, hold, and you can stretch and massage the hand. So working down, first of all the carpals and the metacarpals, working your way down. So up on the carpals first, up here in the wrist, this area, massaging firmly, manipulating the bones a bit, and then working down on the metacarpals. On the backs of the hands, so feeling the lines of the bones to each finger, and press the bones, and then work the space. You'll feel grooves between the bones, so work between the bones. So as you feel this, just work in here. On this side of the thumb here, as if you're doing a standard handshake, just work into the webbing and press the large intestine for this point here, called the great eliminator. So you just want to press into that point. Your partner should feel a slight bruising sensation in this area of the hand. So just holding, gathering energy into this area. If you rub, you're dissipating the energy. We just want to gather some energy into this area. And then from this position, pressing in the small finger. The small finger is the area that takes tremendous impact if you punch in correctly. And so what you can see on the bruising on this hand here is you can see the three fingers have been very well conditioned indeed. Okay, you can see the discoloration from regular training and slight thickening of the skin, but nothing too serious. What you want to do is work into the small finger, the well of the small finger in here, and just pinch. So you've got the heart and small intestine, principal fire energies running through these areas here and on the outside here. So massaging it may be uncomfortable. If it is, then just slightly traction the joint, so holding the hand firmly, slightly pull the joint towards you and very gently, don't go too firmly, very gently traction and manipulate the joints. So working down to the next finger, and then flick off the end of the meridians, so pinching either side, like so, quite firmly at the base of the nail, and then just flicking off. Same thing goes on the next joint, the next well of the finger here, so just working in. So it can be quite uncomfortable. So it can be quite painful at times, particularly there's some good stagnation and bruising in there, but they are very powerful acupuncture points anyway. And then manipulating the joint again, trying to literally move the joint in its base, circling, but not much, just gently moving it, pulling down, working the joint from side to side as well, so you want to move the joint in this direction, as well as traction, so all directions, down, flick off the finger. The next well of the next finger, so you'll hold on to the middle finger, and just traction this one, and move, and press in with your finger. So a nice deep pressure using the thumb, manipulating that, massaging gently in, so small circular movements. Manipulate the joint, right up by the knuckle now, so feeling the joint here, and we're seeing how much movement there is left in this joint. We don't get too fixated. Okay, so we don't want to get too fixed. Moving down, working the next joint, and down, and again off the end, and finally for the good old large intestine, working down, stretching, working off the finger. On the same side here, you want to do the same thing. You want to press in on the thumbs, and then what you want to do is you want to grab hold of the thumb. What we'll do is we'll just hold onto the wrist, the thumb like so, and you want to work. I'll take my hand away so you can see, but basically this is the grip, and you're going to work your partner's wrist for it. So we're just going to work the wrist and traction, and work the wrist. You're going to take the hand and traction that. And then finally, without holding under the thumbs and under the finger, just handing normally, just stretch out the hand and massage it firmly. Okay, Dit Da Jiao is called Chinese hip and fall wine. It is used as a topical treatment for stagnation, for bruises, and for helping energy start to get moved around in the superficial areas of the body. It's not used for cuts or abrasions, it's simply used for soft tissue injuries and for treatments of rheumatism and arthritis. The massage is one of the major points that helps, I have to say. It's the actual massage that's making the blood move and the lymph drainage, and helping the lymph drainage too. But the Chinese genuinely believe that the herbal treatment also facilitates in dispelling the damp. And damp is one of the biggest causes of problems with the hands, particularly for martial artists living in the UK or other countries where you have cold, damp conditions. So what we're going to do is now is apply the similar sort of treatment we did earlier, but using the Dit Da Jiao now. So, taking Dit Da Jiao, all you want to do is just simply take a very small amount, just literally let it drip onto your finger, nothing more than that. And then from there, you take the hand of your partner, who's been training on the wall bag, and you're going to work, first of all, into the small finger area. So just see how much natural absorption there is first. As you can see, his body is already just absorbing this straight away, so in this area. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to traction his small finger, so I'm going to hold it and traction it, so I'm controlling this, just pulling it and slightly lengthening it. And now I'm going to massage the hand, so I'm going to hold onto it firmly, and I'm going to massage this small finger. And as you can see, I'm taking it in a circular movement. Okay. So if you've got slightly hairy hands, we'll actually pull out some of the hairs that are in this area. So sometimes at first it can be a little bit uncomfortable. So you're going to massage firmly in a circular movement. When I'm doing this, I'm slightly bending the joint downwards. As you can see, this accentuates the roundness of the joint. So I'm not just pulling, I'm pulling, and at times I'm tractioning. So as I'm doing this, I'm pulling and I'm depressing the joint down gently, and I'm massaging this area. Because obviously when he forms a fist, this area becomes rounded. So I want to simulate that. And the massage is drawing the blood and taking the lymph away, so draining the lymph, as they say. So just working in this area firmly. And as you can probably see, or possibly see, there's some superficial skin and being removed. When you're training on a wall bag, you would expect some of the sand to be staining the skin, and this area will be cleaned off too. So nice and firmly into the small finger. Okay, so really working in the joint. At the moment, obviously, this is just a tape. You can't go through the whole length of time it will take necessarily to go through it, but make sure you work on the outside edge of the bone as well. So this chopping area is going to take, so particularly where if we take the joint round, you can see now the roundness of the joint, this area here. So basically, proximal of this joint, so not distal, not this side of the round joint here, but this side of the joint here is a small intestine point. We're going to press right into that point there quite firmly and massage it. It's an area that suffers with the training and the punching that we do. And the heart area in here. Okay. So just treating it, and then taking more, just literally enough, simply to get it onto your finger. That's all you need, and then you can work the next finger. So we let go of the small finger now, and we pull and we traction the next finger. And we obviously bend it down so we can get more into the round areas of the joint as well. So we're trying to take off the sharp edges. Now, as you train, you certainly damage the joints and you cause small fractures, possibly if you're training very hard. And what you want to do is encourage, because the body will be creating more calcium in this area, and what you're going to try is encourage concentric circular growth on the joint and help the bone to mend in a much more natural manner, so you don't get any protrusions, which obviously can chip when you start punching in later on, causing you long-term problems and even interfering with the way the tendons attach and the ligaments attach over the joints. Okay, so the tendons attaching to the small muscles could be affected if the joints become irregular in this shape. So working on that. Then again, now you've worked onto that joint, you want to work onto the next well. So you want to work into the next well and just basically work in there quite firmly, because you want to dispel damp in particular. Okay, so working in here, creating heat, massaging, circumcision, pinching down too. And you're going to do the same thing on the next joint and the next joint, and you can even treat the lung point here as well. So this is what the major area that you want to work for, considering your punching in your fist. As you can see, we don't have much of a round knuckle. Okay, and you rotate over. This side of the hand is not as necessary for you to train with dit jiao. It's more the back of the hand in this area. And if you've taken bruising and damaging along the bones here, then you'll want to work this area too. So if you've struck or you've had an elbow land onto the back of your hand, then you may want to work this general area.
3 years ago, I was involved in a self-defense situation. It was outside my house in the early hours of the morning. A drunk man was threatening to kill and beat up his girlfriend. The argument went on for some time, and the man seemed to get more and more aggressive. I left my house to try and talk the man down, and as it turned out, he turned his aggressions and frustrations upon me. The man was very drunk, and he attacked me. He was throwing punches at me that I easily moved. He really couldn't control his movements, and I didn't see him that much of a threat. He threw a few punches at me, and I struck him back. With a short, fast left hand, I punched him. It knocked him down. I pulled the punch. It wasn't that hard a punch. I didn't feel I needed to hit him any harder. The police arrived shortly after and arrested him. As I went back into my house, I noticed a sharp pain in my hand and a small pinprick, like the size of a match head, a hole on my little knuckle, where I'd made contact with my assailant's incisor tooth, a sharp pointed tooth. I thought nothing of it. It was bleeding a little and was a little sore. I washed it in hot water and thought I'd better clean that, and went to work the next day as normal. Around 30 hours later, I'd just woken up the following day, sort of 7 o'clock in the morning. I got up, fell over, couldn't stand up, I had no balance, I started to throw up, started to vomit violently, and was not very well at all. I thought I had food poisoning. I thought I'd eaten something funny, and was just ill. I felt nauseous. I noticed that my left arm, the veins had tracked all the way up to my shoulder. They were all bright red, all the veins going up, and I thought there's something wrong here. So went to the hospital and was immediately admitted for surgery. Apparently there are 50 different bacteria in the human mouth. The human mouth is far more dirty than an animal's mouth, a dog or a cat, something along those lines. And out of those 50 different bacteria, at any time, if we have a cold, a sore throat, gum disease, if we don't look after our teeth properly, these bacteria can be very, very dangerous if they get into the human blood, the blood system. What happened was I contracted Streptococcus A from my assailant's mouth. Maybe he had bad oral hygiene, sore throat, that sort of thing. And Streptococcus say isn't that serious in itself, but any of these bacteria can necrotize. And this one turned into a necrotizing fasciitis, which basically translates as flesh-eating disease. As you can see, my hand here, there's a large patch of skin here, a raised bit. This was actually where, from my hip, where they had to graft from my hip onto my hand, where the disease had eaten the flesh away. It was literally eating my hand. After 5 operations, they couldn't stop the infection. They were doing blood cultures to find out which of the bacteria from the mouth it was, in order to give me the right antibiotic. After about the 6th, 7th operation, the antibiotic started to kick in and the infection stopped. I was very, very, very lucky to still have my hand. They were talking about amputation at the wrist, and if the infection got further up the arm, at the elbow. If the infection got past the shoulder, that would be it. I wouldn't be here now. It has taken 18 full anaesthetic microsurgery operations and 3 years to get my hand as it is now. I still can't form a proper fist, but I can still train. I trained around it. It's not a problem now. So the important thing is be accurate in your punching, in your striking. Punch towards that eye line. Never punch to the jaw straight on. If you get a shot around and the person turns his head, that is when the time when to hit the jaw. From behind, from the ear downwards, point at the jaw. That is the only time to strike to the jaw. Do not strike straight on into someone's jaw. It is too risky, and don't let it happen to you. Any serious injury can be very disheartening, not only in martial arts but in life in general. By persevering in your chosen discipline and with the strength of character that brings, you will overcome and adapt to any problems you may face. Remember, our glory is not to never fall, but to rise every time that we fall.